I guess how's the tight end room looking? Are they developing at a pretty good rate?
We are, yeah, we're making progress. I think that group is similar to a lot of groups on our offense in that you have guys coming back with experience, and so you would hope that second year in the system, a year older, after another year in the weight room, that they're really progressing and playing at a higher rate than we were at any time last year. And I think that's the case. And then the infusion of a couple new guys has helped and brought some more competition. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys can do this year.
A lot of places it seems like the tight end's been kind of phased out, but why is it so important to this offense?
I think I've always just kind of had an affinity for tight ends and what they can do for you. I think it's one of the things that sets us apart. Hopefully, I think it gives you a lot of different types of options in terms of how you can run the ball if you can provide an extra gap that the defense has to defend. I think it gives you some different options in the throw game, and especially when it comes to the play action stuff that we like to do quite a bit. And then hopefully, if you got the right kind of tight ends, then you can look for matchups, And if you get a guy matched up on a smaller guy, then you would hope to use his height, his length, his catch radius, and if you get him matched up on a bigger guy, then hopefully you can use his athleticism and speed to be a mismatch in the passing game. But I think it just kind of fits what I've always believed in and how I've always envisioned offenses working, and I think it's more of an advantage now because not that many people really like to play with more than one of them on the field at a time.
What's the next step for your older, more experienced guys?
Yeah, I assume you're saying just on the offense in general,
Well,
not just at
tight
tight end.
ends in particular, though. What's their next step? What's
So
Ben Sims' next step?
yeah, so I think Ben's next big step would be to be a more dominant blocker. I thought last year he made improvement and was a solid blocker. His goal this year is to become a dominant blocker and continue to evolve as a receiver. He's always had really natural hands, but his ability to create separation and run more definitive routes and all the things that he can do in the pass game, I think, can be accentuated as well. But to become a more dominant blocker, and he's certainly shown that this spring. I would say that's been one of the highlights for us. And then Drake, I would say, to become a more consistent receiver. He's been a guy that's been a good blocker for us, and for him, it's becoming better at running routes, catching balls, and so the two of them, kind of a yin and yang kind of thing going on with them. But pleased with what I'm seeing from both of them thus far.
Coach, what have you seen out of your QB battle, and is there one guy who's kind of taken a step?
No, not yet. And you could say fortunately or unfortunately, when you have two or three good guys competing, on one hand, you want them all to do well, and you want them to continue progressing and showing that they should be the guy. On the other hand, it just makes our jobs more difficult. But I would certainly rather have that than the other. I've been in the position a number of years as a coach where we didn't have any quarterbacks on the team that we really felt like could win the conference for us. And I really feel like those guys are, both Gary and Blake are doing a great job. And I got to say, Kyron Drones has really, really improved too. He's been one of the highlights of the spring for me, his improvement and maturity.
Do you have to manage anything differently because of the transfer portal?
I think you have to be aware of it. Certainly, I think if you just pretend like it doesn't exist, then you're gonna wind up feeling like you're behind the eight ball a little bit. And so I think certainly have to be aware of it. But that's something that we'll deal with after the spring.
Maybe not specifically to Blake or Gary, but just overall, what's that thing that you want to see maybe differentiate the two in terms of a quarterback running in your offense?
That's a good question. I think, it would just. I think both of them lead with their own personalities, and I think that's something that every quarterback has to do. And so, I guess just to see one of those guys just really be himself and be comfortable being his truest self on the field, and that his personality really shines through the way that he plays, and that confidence is something that bleeds over into the rest of our unit.
Ben talked about how competition is kind of good for the offense. And from your perspective, when you have that competition and two guys fighting for that spot, do you have to almost, I guess, hold up the progression you make in the offense because you want a guy solidified in there, or are you able to push the offense forward despite the fact that maybe you don't know who's going to be running it?
Yeah, I think you do lose a little bit there. Maybe a better way to say it is I think you can gain a lot once you name the starter. It gives you a little bit more clear direction as a coach and as a team. But I think ultimately the competition is a good thing, and I think it makes everybody better. So it's worth it.
Is it possible we'll have one named by the end of spring?
Certainly possible.
You look at, in terms of pass catchers, just not a lot of receptions back from last season. Who have you seen that maybe is going to step into that role? And do you think that maybe the tight ends will have to serve a little bit more of the role as
Well, I would like to say that the tight ends will get to serve a larger role rather than they'll have to. Sometimes Sean and I kid around about it, Coach Bell, and he says, well, we had to throw to the tight end right there. And no, you got to throw to the tight end right there. That's a reward for you doing your job. But I would like to see the tight ends role increase. But ultimately, you got to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers. At receiver, we're playing with a lot of guys who haven't played many snaps, and that is a concern. We definitely have to have some guys mature and develop in that room, and I would say that that's coming along, but probably not anybody that I would name above another right now.
in terms of the running back room? Can you replace Abram Smith with one guy, or do you almost have to do it by committee a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you could, but I'm not sure that guy is there yet. Much like the quarterback competition and the receiver competition at running back, we've had a number of guys really begin to show what they can do. And obviously Tay is a guy that we're really high on, and he's had a good spring. Craig Williams, Squirrel, has had a really good spring, and it's really the first time I've seen him be able to show up and compete and show what he can do every day, and really been impressed with him as well as the other guys that are still young and developing. So to answer your question more directly, I don't know yet. Could be one of those guys, and I like to have a guy that's sort of your bell cow, and you're going to hand it to him a bunch of times a game, and then you have somebody else who's either a guy that will spell him or a change of pace back. But I've also done it where you split carries amongst 2 or 3 guys.
With Dave's philosophy of kind of leading from up front, how big is that to have an experienced offensive line back like you do, all those guys coming back?
Yeah, having an experienced and quality offensive line. I've had an experienced offensive line back that wasn't very good before. Sometimes that's not as good as it seems, but having experience back and having a group back that now is coming in with confidence, I think allows us to do anything that we want to do. When you don't have that, it makes the run game hard. It makes it challenging in the pass game. It makes it challenging to figure out who your quarterback's going to be, just because the protection is so shoddy. So having those guys back gives us an opportunity to develop all areas of our game, and hopefully those guys will lead for us.
When you have, back to the running back real quick, when you have a guy who had so much success in your offense like Abram, and you have guys who maybe aren't built like him or aren't the same height and weight as him, do you try to build them into an Abram Smith, or how do you, or is it okay if they're maybe a little quicker, or maybe not as willing to run through a guy or things of that nature?
Yeah, no, I don't think you try to make anyone into him. I think you just try to make each guy the best version of himself that he can be. And some guys might be a little smaller, some a little bigger, some a little quicker, some a little more elusive. I think our offense is one that can work with different sizes and styles of backs.
Coach, you talked last year so much about making simple sophisticated. Do you feel like now that you're in your second year you can be a little less simple, or is that still keep it simple and go from
Well, I really think that's a big part of our success, and I think that our ability to say this is who we are and understand our identity, and it's kind of like when you, as a person, when you really know who you are, it gives you confidence to do whatever it is that you choose to do in life. And I think the same is true of an offensive unit. If we understand who we are, then it gives us strength going into games, and we know what we're going to rely on. We know where we're going to lean. I think what it does is it gives us a little bit more versatility in that we might do those things a few more ways rather than adding a bunch of different plays. So you'll see some things that'll be a little bit different, but if we're adding things, it's because we've chosen to do that instead of something else.
Ben, what's the competition like in the tight end room?
I mean, it's always changing, always moving around. We got a couple new guys this year. Mark Patton, Kelsey, Gavin's getting better, Gavin's getting older. I mean, it's always kind of moving around. So they always like to play with us too a little bit, so that's fun to see.
Of course, you're coming off a really good year. What kind of things are you working on this spring?
So a few of my spring goals were to become a more dominant blocker on the front side of wide zone, and then take that next step as like a pass catcher. So those were two of my pretty big goals.
You talked about that in terms of taking that next step as a pass catcher. With so many receiving yards now not on the team and kind of a youthful receiver room, do you want to take that as an advantage and utilize that in the game to maybe catch more passes?
Yeah, I for sure see myself doing that. I see myself catching more passes, but I also see myself needing to break more tackles and make more contested catches and catch the ones that you, so to speak, shouldn't catch. So that's kind of where I'm focused on.
The coach Grimes, is that one of the things he said focus on, the blocking? Like, was that kind of considered your weakness or whatever, or just something you needed to do better?
Yeah, it's always been a topic of discussion. So I mean, you can always do better, right? So I mean, especially front side of wide zone, that was a big point of growing this spring, I guess. Yeah.
For you guys, what's the beauty of having two quarterbacks that have that type of experience, especially in game, and now we're kind of fighting for that number one spot?
Competition's always fun. I think I mentioned this last year. There was multiple times where during fall camp it was GB and another guy, and I mean, it's fun to watch, man. Competition brings the best out of everybody, so it's fun to see.
Why is this offense so good for tight ends?
I don't know. So many reasons. I think this offense really allows tight ends to do like a little bit of everything, whether that's like arc block, catch passes, be on the front side and back side of wide zone. I mean, schematically, our offense is so large that we are expected to be able to do everything, and with that comes a lot of versatility.
Say, just from the short time at the front that we're able to be there, we see Coach Grimes working with you guys a lot, specifically at tight end. What's that big thing that you learned from working with him a lot in spring practice?
During spring practice,
Yeah.
I mean, he talks to me and Drake about being able to take that next step, and I feel like that's really the point of emphasis because, yeah, we lost some guys last year, but at the same time, every year is different. So for me and Drake to be able to step up in those roles is really important, and that happens during the spring, during our developmental time.
Drake, what's the competition like in the tight end room?
It's great right now. I think me and Ben are always pushing each other to be the best we can be in like every aspect of our game, and then we got a lot of young guys coming in that are maturing and stepping up in a big way. And we're all just we just work together, help each other out on things, and just push each other.
What do you like? What do you like about this offense as far just tight end specific?
I love how much we're on the field. I mean, a lot of 12 personnel, 13. We even got Gavin at fullback or Dylan sometimes. So I think staying on the field is just how you just end up, the ball will find you and then get a chance to block and just do it all. We're forced to be very versatile, and I think the things we do in this offense is what a lot of NFL tight ends do, what a lot of NFL wants the tight end to be. So.
Drake, I think Coach said you need to get better receiver. Are you working specifically on that, or just kind of trying to hone your whole game?
Yeah, so a few of my goals were, of course, to become an even more dominant blocker, but then the next one was to get better in the passing game, and I think I know what I can do, but there's also stuff to get better on, just playing with more speed and just running more efficient routes, and then when that ball comes to me, just making plays.
Was there a confidence that you gained maybe last year that maybe you didn't have going into the year, just as much as you got to play and being involved?
Yeah, for sure. I think once the season went on, that second half of the season, I just kind of came out of my shell a little more because I was less kind of feeling things out and just going and just playing football like I've known since I was little. But yeah, for sure.
I think there's a chance we could see, a lot more catches from the tight end room, considering, how little there is in terms of pass catches back, especially a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. I think so for sure. As long as we continue to show that we can block and just get on the field, I think that ball will find us. But if we're on the field, I think it's a good chance it might come to us. So.
Is that something for you did you come up here block first kind of guy, or did you have to kind of learn that, okay, if I block, then I can kind of catch?
I think my mindset, of course, every tight end wants to get the ball, as fun as that is, but I think you have to develop that mindset, at least for me, just like if I block, that's how I get on the field. So if I'm on the field, the more chance there is for the ball to come to me. But for sure, just being a dominant blocker and just doing whatever I can for the team. So yeah.
What was one of the big reasons you came here is because Baylor uses the tight ends so much in their offenses compared to other schools?
I mean, with the old coaching staff, it was kind of more 11 personnel, and I kind of saw like their need for tight end. But I think honestly, Grimes coming here with his scheme was honestly just a blessing in disguise, because really just the main reason to come to Baylor, I love to be close to home, play Big 12 football in Texas. So adding Grimes with his scheme is just like kind of a blessing that he just loves going to the tight end and using us and putting us on the field. So.
You were used fullback, tight end. Do you like being able to, be used in so many different spots?
Yes, sir. I'm kind of just like a yes coach. I'll do anything. So it doesn't really matter wherever they put me, as long as I'm on the field. It doesn't matter.
Did you have to learn a lot of playing fullback? I mean, is that kind of new?
Yeah, I was definitely new. I never played a fullback in
Yeah.
high school, so it's kind of just I got in there to try to be a sponge and learn everything that I could in the short amount of time.
Coach Mateos told us last week that he feels like this spring has been more physical even than a lot of the season was. Have you noticed that?
For sure, it's definitely been a lot more physical up front. I mean, we're trying to be the best blocking team in college, so I think that's a good way to start. So I 100% agree.
And do you tight ends kind of connect with the O-line and kind of feel like you guys are all in it together?
100%. And I don't know how the other tight ends feel, but I'm definitely more of a O-lineman than a wide receiver. So 100%.
What's your favorite part about the fullback position?
Just running, hitting people in the face. I think that's old school football, and I just love that about football.
When was that point when you realized, like, I kind of like the contact and, like you said, organized violence, I guess?
From like the fullback aspect, probably fall camp. Like my first time getting in at fullback, really, I just ran through his face. I was like, okay, it's kind of fun. I like it. So that's kind of when it all started, I guess.
Where do you feel like you need to improve as a tight end? What are some of the areas?
Kind of just overall blocking and pass catching, being more physical, and definitely using my pad level to my advantage.
How much do you get from, Ben being around, Drake being a little older? How much do you gain from them?
A lot, and they're kind of my mentors, kind of because I'm still the young guy, and I still feel like I'm kind of connecting with the early enrollees too. So they're kind of my mentor, and they take every step with me. So they're big
Score
helps.
down on the goal line?
Yes, sir.
What was that like? I mean, just you probably weren't maybe even expecting it.
No, I wasn't expecting it at all. I just ran on the field, and they called the play in the huddle, and my heart started beating pretty fast, and I just grabbed the ball from Gary and just pointed my head down and ran, and then I hear Ben over the top of me, Yates, you scored, and I was like, nice, and then Connor Galvin's on top of me. I can't move. I feel like I'm getting squished, and so it was just like a nice, I need to get up now. I can't breathe.
Throughout practices and the scrimmages you've had this spring, who are some guys on the defense, maybe linebackers, that you've had to block or collide with that you're like, okay, we got some dogs over there?
Definitely my other fullback, Dylan Doyle. Me and him, every time we go at it, and it's kind of some smack talk after, but it's good times. I love hitting Dylan, and he loves hitting me back, so it's a good time.
So are you a little worried he's coming for your job?
There's always competition, and I love competition, so if he comes and he beats me out, then so be it. But I love hitting him, and he loves hitting me back, so whoever can hit harder.
Thanks,
guys.
Gavin.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.